Hello and welcome to a special E3 extravaganza blowout. This is a very special episode of Starside Chat. I'm your host Aaron. With me as always is my co-host, or dual host, second host, Zach. How's it going, Zach?
Good. I'm excited to talk about E3. We've been kind of saving it up because we watched all the shows. Timing didn't work out to do individual recaps this year, but we're going to do all of them in one.
Imagine if we had done, I guess we'll get into this in a second, but imagine if we had committed to doing recaps of every one of them, because there are like 2 or 3 that would have been 3-minute videos.
It's true. Which, I mean, that could have been funny too. But yeah, there were definitely a couple in there that were just a complete waste of time. So we'll try to maybe skip over some of those, maybe hit just some of the highlights without necessarily going through each and every point. But let's start out with the Summer Games Fest Kickoff Live show.
Yes. I would say that this E3 was bookended by the 2 best shows. I mean, Microsoft also did a great job. We'll get to them in chronological order, but
no Sony.
No Sony this year. Summer Games Fest started out with a big cinematic trailer for Tiny Tina's Wonderland, which is not something I had any idea about. I've never played a Borderlands game. Have you, Zach?
I have. So I played the first one. I actually really liked it because I thought the art style was pretty novel for the time. And I remember there was like an E3 presentation that they did for that first Borderlands game where it was not like cel-shaded art style. It was going for like more of a Fallout look almost. And then they like scrapped that and came back like a year later with this like crazy cel-shaded look. And then, it's just become like a huge style for them. And I think a lot of other places are like trying to do something similar. I think it's kind of played out a little bit to me. Like, I played some of Borderlands 2. I didn't get super into that. And then I just fell off and didn't ever come back to the series after that. I think it's cool, but maybe less and less for me over the years. And I think I am less and less attracted to the art style the more I look at it.
So this is, they claim, not a Borderlands game. This is a Wonderlands game, which I guess is like more sci-fi fantasy, whereas Borderlands was like in space and just sci-fi.
Yeah.
And it stars Andy Samberg.
Well, so this game, doesn't it have like a bunch of actors, like notable actors in it, maybe? Or am I thinking
that was the one that stood out to me.
This was supposed to be based on like a DLC, I want to say, for like a previous Borderlands game. So like people know about Tiny Tina and like this whole thing. So it's not like necessarily new, but like her having her own game, that is new. And also they're making a Borderlands movie, which is, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, I was surprised we didn't get like a trailer or something, but I assume there's some sort of thing where the trailer has to be revealed somewhere else.
Well, Gearbox did a whole thing during their presentation where they had, what's his name from Gearbox? Randy Pitchford.
Pitchford, yeah.
And he was like walking around behind the scenes talking to like the director, and he talked to like Kevin Smith for a little while and like a couple other people. So what
did Kevin Smith do for it?
Am I thinking of Kevin Hart? Why did I say Kevin Smith?
That makes sense.
There is a game coming out that is like Jay and Silent Bob, right? I don't know why my mind went there, but anyway, Kevin Hart, he's in the movie as one of the characters, but he's like a small guy, and the guy he's playing is like a huge, like beefy, strong dude. So
hilarious.
They were talking about how that was like a whole big thing or whatever. But anyway, I'm not super interested in that movie, to be honest.
Nor am I. Afterwards, after they did that, I was like, all right, that's a good way to open the show, I guess. But then they went to something I was completely not expecting.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the old Metal Slug games. The animations in those were terrific. And Metal Slug is coming back as a tactics game, which I think looks super interesting, and I will definitely check out.
Yeah, I only have a little bit of experience with the old Metal Slug games, but I liked them. They were like crazy bullet hell, like side-scrolling games, and I enjoyed them. I thought they were really tough, but I had fun playing them. And looks like something that's way more up my alley than if they were just to do like a new Metal Slug game. Like I probably wouldn't have played it if it was just like new side-scrolling Metal Slug game, but like a tactics game. Somehow this is like way more appealing to me, and it does look amazing.
And the hits just kept on coming, because after that, Jeff Keighley was like, and now a very special report from my best friend, Kojima. And Kojima showed up. And he talked about 9/11 for some reason a bunch, and about how his games are influencing reality, so he has to like change his game so that reality doesn't, I guess, be destroyed.
He has to make new reality.
And then he showed a clip from what turns out to be Death Stranding director's cut, which looks crazy. I don't know. There's no interiors, I don't believe, in Death Stranding. So
there sort of are, but not really. I did not know what was going on with the whole like Metal Gear box gag.
Oh, really? You don't know about boxes in Metal Gear?
Well, like I'm vaguely aware that that's like a thing, but like don't have experience with that series, so this was lost on me completely.
I am interested to see what this is. I tried to play Death Stranding, and it unfortunately came out during a time when my PlayStation was in a place where it became inhospitable due to weather for me to be for long periods of time. And so I stopped playing it, and I never really started again. And now I just own it on PS4, and I could go back to it, but I could also wait for this director's cut, whatever this is.
Play that. Yeah, I don't know what they're planning on adding with it, because, I mean, this is Kojima's company, so, like, wouldn't every game be the director's cut?
That's actually a super good point.
I'm a little confused.
He has complete creative control.
You would certainly think so, but I don't know, maybe there's more that he cut out and then decided to add back in. Who knows?
More hits. Jeff Goldblum, I believe, was not there live. I think this was a pre-recorded. He seems insane now for some reason, but
I mean, he always has been. But
I think something is like cranked up to 11.
Do you get the sense that he's maybe never seen any of his own movies, or maybe any movie ever, or like definitely not played any video game, and definitely not a game that he's been in, and so he finds it really interesting when people like come up to him and are like they recognize him from like Jurassic Park or something, and I don't know. He seems like a crazy guy. He's a national treasure. That's all I know.
It's true.
But he does seem like a crazy guy.
What else do we... So then Japanese Breakfast came on and did a song from that Sable game, which was fine.
There's a demo out for that game, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it on all platforms?
It's on Steam. I don't know that it's on console.
Oh, is that part of that Steam like Days of Play or whatever?
Possibly. I don't know. I just saw that the demo was available.
They had a brief showing of that Lost Ark game from Amazon Games that is famously like an embattled developer. Like Jason Schreier wrote that piece on how people at Amazon just like don't understand how video games are made, and so every property they try to make is just like mired in mismanagement. So
yeah, well, and this one I want to say is like not a Western game. It was like originally like this is already out somewhere else in the world.
Oh, really?
And is just being like brought to Western markets. I could be wrong about it. I could be thinking of a different game, but I'm pretty sure it was this one. Because they have 2 MMOs in the works that are both supposed to come out this year. And I find it very confusing because they both have relatively similar art styles. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Amazon games.
Warzone stuff, we don't really care about that. Ryan Reynolds then appeared in another what I believe to be taped segment. And they just like showed a trailer for Free Guy, which was fine. Among Us stuff. We don't really
There was
care.
not really a game connection to that, was there?
No, it's just the movie is about he is in a video game, but not really. I mean, it was a celebrity. Like, he was able to get a celebrity to come on and say Elden Ring prior to the unveiling. So that was, I mean, good for Jeff. I feel like he nailed it. But
True.
Shoyo Yoshida came on and showed some indie stuff. He showed an extended thing for Solar Ash, which was pretty cool. It had sort of a Shadow of the Colossus feel, where it the main character hopped onto a big bird and was like getting rid of points on the bird to bring it down. I thought that looked very cool.
Yeah, there was a point where there was like a previous trailer for this game that made me kind of not sure I was actually going to be interested in it. But this latest trailer that they showed actually does seem more cool to me.
They showed there was a trailer where it seemed as though it was going to be like almost on rails, but not, like where you were constantly having to move forward and maintain momentum. I don't think that's the case, though. I think there is like exploration involved in this, which I am appreciative
We should say this is the developer of Hyper Light Drifter, which we both really liked a lot. We like the style of the game, the music. It sounds like they got Disaster Piece back for the soundtrack.
Did. Yeah, so he is returning for this, yeah.
So that's awesome.
I wrote down Chivalry 2, but I don't remember anything about this reveal.
I'm playing Chivalry 2 right now. Like, it's out. So, I mean, I don't know why they needed to show this, but that's a fun game. It's just, it's a medieval multiplayer warfare game that is so silly and so fun. It's just like goofy fun. Like when you start out, there's like a button to literally just like scream as you run forward to like go collide with the enemy on the other side, and you're just like hacking and slashing. And I hadn't played Mordhau and I hadn't played the first Chivalry game, but I think this game is a lot of
fun. They released a very incredibly brief trailer for a new agent for Valorant that was literally like 2 seconds. Seems like it's gonna be a robot. There's a big update for Escape from Tarkov that is like a redesign of a portion of the map. It seems like I like Escape from Tarkov as an idea, but I've never really played it. Let's see. 2 Point Campus was something that we saw actually later on in another show. And then Netflix had some stuff. There's going to be a Cuphead show, and Wayne Brady is going to be in it. I don't remember what tomorrow is.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm interested in the Cuphead show. I liked that game, and just like the art style of it was crazy. So I'm interested in seeing more about a show for that. And then I added this to the notes. There's a show called Captain Laserhawk, a Blood Dragon remix, where they're doing like a Far Cry Blood Dragon TV show.
Man, that game was so good.
It was so good. And spoilers for later on, but they're packaging that in with Far Cry 6. I want to say if you get the season pass, maybe you have to get, I don't know if you just like buy the game and you automatically get Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon on like next gen consoles or what the deal is, but I thought this was pretty exciting actually, a TV show based on that game, because that game is so like, I don't know, visually cool.
So then Jeff Keighley was like, we have unveiled a lot of things at Summer Games Fest. We did games, movies, all types of things. We've never done a studio though, or like a developer. He said something like that. But here is Prime Matter, and then Prime Matter just like showed a bunch of like a sizzle reel of stuff they're working on. I caught 2 things I was interested in. There's going to be a Gungrave sequel, which is an old PlayStation game that I was very into. That was like basically an anime where you were like a guy named Brandon Heat, and you were part of like some sort of mafia, and then you died, and then because you were betrayed, and then you came back and you had your coffin chained to you, and you basically were on a revenge tale. The first game I loved and played like 5 times and unlocked everything. And the second one was okay. I played it like twice just to unlock more stuff with a secondary character. I didn't think it was as good as the first one. I don't know what this is. There's also an anime. They made an anime out of it that was pretty crazy.
What sort of game is it?
It's like a third-person shoot 'em up kind of action type game where you have like dual. It's a lot. It's kind of like Max Payne almost, except there's no bullet time. Where you're like jumping around, you have dual guns, and then when you charge up, your coffin can do crazy stuff like shoot rockets or become like a giant ballista and stuff like that.
I'm looking at the trailer now. It's very kind of cyberpunky, and I think it's
Yeah.
set in like Hong Kong, and like it's third person, and he's dual wielding guns. This actually does look really cool to me, and I had no idea about it. So
Are you watching the trailer for the first one or the new one?
the reunion trailer.
Oh, that's the new one. There is also going to be a Painkiller sequel. Painkiller 1 was a game that I played a bunch of, and I guess there have been a couple other sequels, but I never checked them out. But that's interesting. Anacrusis was another game they showed that seemed to be sort of a Left 4 Dead in space with like quirky characters that talk to each other all the time. This seemed interesting. The art style I thought was pretty cool. It kind of reminded me of Deathloop, which we didn't hear anything about, actually.
Well, yeah, because I kept expecting the Sony to do some sort of show. I mean, I guess we've seen enough of that game at this point,
Yeah.
but that would be where they would show that game, is if Sony had done a show, and they may still, but as of this recording, they have not. And yeah, that's true. It did remind me sort of the art style of Deathloop, but like everybody's sort of doing a Left 4 Dead style game now, it seems.
It's true. There's going to be a Fast and Furious crossover in Rocket League. I'm not super into Rocket League, but I love Fast and Furious. They revealed a Vampire the Masquerade Battle Royale, I think. I'm unclear on exactly what this game is.
I was going to ask you about this because I know you're more aware of like what's going on with Vampire the Masquerade than I am, but like they have like an action RPG Vampire the Masquerade in the works, right? And then
Bloodlines 2 is in development,
forever
but
delayed.
has had some. Yeah, it's been having some trouble. I think they had like someone on their team, something bad happened, but also there's just like COVID happened. So I don't know what's going on with that.
So is this one of those situations where that game just keeps getting delayed, and then they're like, here's a different Vampire the Masquerade game that we're going to release?
This is what this reminded me of. Are you familiar with Shadowrun?
Yeah.
Shadowrun is a very cool idea. It's a very cool universe, but like like a decade ago, they were like, "Hey, we're making a Shadowrun game. It's a multiplayer only arena shooter," and people were like, "What? This sucks." And then it promptly went away. And I think this is similar, where Vampire the Masquerade has a lot of rich lore and interesting stuff going on, and they were just like, well, I guess here's like a battle royale, and I feel like this is not gonna have legs. This will be gone and forgotten in no time.
Yeah, it's a strange choice to have like that style of a game and then go for an arena shooter with it. I didn't know if this was something that made sense for that universe or what was going on.
I don't believe that it does.
Okay, at least it's not
the whole
just
thing
me.
about Vampire the Masquerade is you're doing the masquerade, like you're trying to hide from humans. You're behind the scenes, and having an insane battle royale in a downtown metropolitan area is probably gonna alert people that there are vampires. I don't remember what House of Ashes is. Do you?
I do not. See, this is still
Tales
part
of Arise.
Tales of Arise is a game I'm into. I think I might actually play it. It comes out in September. It's a Japanese action RPG, and it's got a very anime style. This is like, you remember like Tales of Vesperia and Tales of, I might be saying the names of these wrong, but like there's a bunch of these Tales games. And I always remember, so I worked at a video game buy-sell trade store for a while that was locally owned, that was not GameStop. And I feel like maybe it was just like that area, but like people were constantly like bringing those games in and being like, oh, this was such a great game. Or like they would pick up a different one and be like, oh, this is so good. And like, so I've always heard like really good things about these games. But I'd never played one before, and it's my understanding that they are a little bit like Final Fantasy, and that you don't need to have played all of them to kind of understand what's going on, where because each is sort of its own self-contained story. And so I was like, well, maybe I will finally jump in on this series and see what's going on with it. So I'm into it. I will probably play that game when it comes out later this year.
Planet of Lana looked pretty interesting. It had a very cool art style. I was watching, I think probably MinMax, and they were saying it's like a cheerful looking Inside or Playdead type game.
Yeah, that's what it
I'm
looked
very
like
into.
to me as well.
I probably will definitely check this out.
Coming out in
Overwatch-
2022, so it's a ways out, but yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that one.
There was an Overwatch 2 segment for some reason.
Yeah,
where they were just like, yeah, we made these new character models. No new news, but yeah, we made these new character models.
they just like randomly were like, hey, here's 2 of our redone character models. We've just picked 2 characters out of a hat, and we're just showing you their new models. And to my eye, they look basically the same as the other character models. Maybe they were just a little higher resolution, but or maybe
This,
they
I
had
think,
a
is a
different
symptom.
skin, but
This is a symptom of Jeff Keighley just being like, how much stuff?
Can we
how
jam
well
in
rounded? Yeah, how many things can I check off a list? Like, can I get a Blizzard thing also? And he did it. To his credit, he did do it. So I can't complain about this too much because it does kind of make the show more like, oh, they've got everything, but also like nobody really cared about that.
yeah.
Speaking of things that nobody cares about, this game looked interesting, but they did something I did not enjoy with it. There's a Dark Alliance game coming out that's like 4-person co-op that actually seems pretty cool, but they did like a live play with it that I had to mute because I don't enjoy those types of things.
I hate when they do that as well.
But the gameplay looked cool.
I was going to ask you
think
about this because like you're into D&D stuff, so I was going to ask
love
if
it.
this was on your radar at all.
No, it wasn't even on my radar. I'm not familiar with whatever lore this is referencing, but
I think this game is
if
like $40 and it's coming out in like a week or two.
I might check this out. It seems like something that would be fun if I can get enough people to download it, but
I was going to say I would play this game with you.
maybe, yeah. If we could do 2-player co-op, I think this would be pretty enjoyable.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Monster Hunter Stories 2, do you care about that?
I don't. No.
Weezer, do you care about Weezer?
No, I don't care about Weezer either. Do you care about Weezer? I feel like Weezer's lost relevance and they just keep pumping out music anyway.
He keeps making those albums. I feel like I have heard that, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I have heard that he has just like a vault of songs. I'm sure every musician has a vault of songs they've never released and they're just like constantly pulling from, but
Yeah, I don't know. Like they had some good stuff back in the day and I remember them for that, but like, I don't know.
And I think that's basically, there's a bunch of other stuff we don't really need to get into until at the very end, Jeff Keighley was like, guess what, guys? I did it. The thing you've been asking for years, here it is. And he got the reveal of Elden Ring and a release date, which, good for him. I felt really happy for him.
Yeah, that was cool. I feel like when he started the outline for this show, he just in bold letters wrote Elden Ring on there.
Yeah.
And then he went from there. And it was a surprisingly detailed reveal as well.
Yeah. What do you think about this? Did you play Sekiro?
I did not, no.
Nor did I.
I have started Bloodborne twice, but not made it terribly far into it.
I watched my brother play a majority. He's good at Souls games and enjoys them. I watched my brother play a majority of Bloodborne, and it seemed crazy and cool. And I looked up the plot of what's actually going on Wikipedia, and it was crazy. I almost bought Sekiro a bunch of times, but I didn't, and I ended up just watching someone play through it on Twitch, and that was enjoyable. I don't know. I want to know more about this. If it's like legitimately some sort of like open world Breath of the Wild inspired type of game, which I have seen commentary that speculates that it might be, this might be something I would check out.
No, I'm not super well versed in the Souls-like games, but they seem like the type of game that like the story might be fairly minimal, but there's like a bunch of lore if you care to look for it, like that kind of a game. Whereas
That's accurate,
I
I
wonder if Elden Ring, because George R.R. Martin is involved, if maybe he wrote a bunch of stuff And so there might be like more of a like driving narrative behind this one, which seems interesting to me. And just like their creature design is like insane. Just like looking at the art style of this game, it makes me want to try it, even though I'm like a little bit scared too.
And that was it for Games Fest. It was a solid opening to an interesting E3. Saturday rolled around and it took a little bit of a dip. The first thing on Saturday was the Coke. I'm going to say Coke Media because I think that's how it's pronounced, although the presenter said Koch Media. But frankly, I think that presenter was misinformed. I thought it was going to be good from like the first 30 seconds because the presenter came on. She's like, hey, we got a lot to talk about today. Also, here's Jeff Keighley again. And it just cut to Jeff Keighley being like, I'm going to co-host this. What's up? This is also a Summer Games Fest thing. But then it was just a long-form interview with no gameplay whatsoever. We were talking about this before we started recording, but I don't know who this was for, but it was not for anyone, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, our best guess is that the people at Coke Media thought that this was more of like a GDC type of a thing where they were like
for developers.
Yeah, specifically for developers to try to like pitch them on like coming under the umbrella of Coke Media or Koch Media, whatever. And
that's what it seemed like, because everything was all like, she would just basically ask questions like, she would ask one question that was like, how's your game doing? And then the following question would be like, talk about how great it is to be under this umbrella. Like, what benefits have you gained from being part of this large corporation? Yeah. And he would just expound on like, oh, it's so nice to have the backing of this company.
It was like super marketing, like PR talk, and it was just like, nobody cares about this.
I couldn't watch it. I had to stop watching. I literally wrote, I can't watch this, and I just turned it off.
Yeah, I was like doing a couple other things as this was on, and so I wasn't like hanging on every word, but like I would turn back to the TV while it was happening, and it would just be like 10 minutes later, we were still sitting on that developer's face, and he was just like talking into the camera, and there was like no gameplay footage, no anything. And so I was like, what even is this? So yeah, I also had to turn it off.
Wholesome Direct had some cool things. I only wrote down a couple things. Snacko is like a cat island game. I thought had a cool art style and would probably be fun. There's going to be an Ooblets update, which I didn't even know they were making DLC for that game. This is a free update, though. It's not DLC. Yokai Inn is something I wrote down that I thought looked great, but I have no memory of it right now.
Yeah, I looked at that too. I liked the art style of that. That seemed like a cool game to me.
Now, did you ever play Passpart Out? It's like a French word. Passpart Out?
No.
This was a game that was like $10 or something on. Maybe it's Passpart 2.
Passpart 2 too? Because it's the second one?
You play like a weird little guy, and he sets up an easel, and then you just draw paintings and sell them. It's very relaxing. I don't really think there's a way to lose. But this is a sequel to that game, and I had no idea they were even developing. I think it's probably a very small studio. But this is a game I'll definitely check out, because I had a lot of fun with the first one. Yeah,
I didn't write notes for this one, and I am regretting it a little bit, but like in general, I'll say the Wholesome Direct had a lot of like indie games, but there were a lot of great looking indie games like throughout all of the different shows. And like I mentioned it to you before we started recording, like really, really strong stuff from like indie games at this E3. I ended up wishlisting a whole bunch of stuff. And a lot of them were in this Wholesome Direct, but some of them were from like other shows. But I do remember, I want to say I saw that Death's Door game at this show.
Yes.
It's like an isometric action game where you play as like a crow with like a red sword.
Yes, this looked very cool to me.
Yeah, I loved the art style for it. It looked really, really good. So and this is coming up soon too. Like we don't have to wait too much longer for that game. So I'm definitely gonna play that. And then yeah, there was a whole bunch of other stuff. I guess I don't know. The Wholesome Direct was supposed to be like brighter, more uplifting games. Was that the thing behind this?
I guess, yeah. I mean, it was all pretty chill. It was all like kind of like bubbly, happy games. I mean, I liked it. It was not a bad show. They had some stuff I was interested in.
Yeah, same. So that was a pretty good show, but it was not like the heavy hitters of like
No.
the
So
Microsoft and Nintendo show.
Ubisoft was the first thing that I was like, okay, E3 is underway, basically.
Right.
I don't have anything really to talk about, though, except for basically the last two things they showed. Do you want to cover any of the pre-last two things?
I guess there are three things I would talk about, and one of them I guess maybe we don't have to talk too much about because it's sort of a known quantity, but like before we get to that, Rainbow Six Extraction, I guess, like it's another zombie game, but like I don't know that I will play this game, but like the pitch for that is like if you're Ubisoft and you've got this like really successful like first person shooter that's like competitive, but you know you're sort of missing that audience that does not enjoy competitive stuff, and like you're seeing what's happening with Blizzard and how they're sort of trying to build an Overwatch 2 to sort of take advantage of people who are more into the cooperative stuff. This is like their attempt to do that. They're like making a cooperative game. And I can appreciate that because would much rather play a co-op game than I would a competitive game right now. I don't know if this is the one I would want, but I get it. I think it's a good strategy and it kind of looks a little bit cool. But again, I don't know if I'll end up jumping into that or not. But the other one, I don't know if this is one of the things you wanted to talk about, but Far Cry 6 seems cool. Like I probably will play that game. And like we said, there's like Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon seems to come with it, and it's playable on the next gen consoles, which is cool.
Yeah, I will check out Far Cry 6. It seems interesting.
Yeah, and there's like a season pass that includes some sort of mode where you get to play as the villains from the previous games, which seemed interesting to me.
I'm not as interested in that, but I appreciate that they're bringing them back. I don't know. I feel like that smacked of like the end of Far Cry 5 in a way that I just did not like their storytelling method, where it's just going to be like a tiger walks past you and then explodes into a bunch of like colorful mist. And you're just supposed to be like, oh my God, what's going on right now?
It's that part of the game where you're high and just everything is insane.
Terrible.
But I will say, like, maybe it's just me and maybe I'm being a little too critical, but does it seem like their character models and facial animations are, like, not that great for... Maybe they need, like, to update their engine? Because I think
the environments look great.
Yeah, like, the environments look amazing. And, like, the weapons, like... Just all of that.
Yeah, the weapon models
great.
are very cool.
But something seems off about like the character models and the faces. Yeah. Like they have the actor who they've clearly done some like mapping for his face, and he looks pretty good. But like everybody else seems like a generation or two ago. I don't know. It looked really off to me. But
let's get into these last two. Mario plus Rabbids was a game I very much enjoyed when it came out of nowhere. I remember I was in Houston on vacation when I saw the reveal for this, and I was like, this is blowing my mind right now. I want this immediately. And I bought it, and it's great, and I can't get enough of it. But now there's a sequel, Sparks of Hope, I believe, where they incorporate Mario Galaxy type stuff. This looks great too, and it seems like you can move freely. It was a grid-based system previous to... not necessarily grid-based, but there you could only go so far. I don't know. It's confusing to me because
you're
they
right.
have said
I think it was grid-based for Kingdom.
Now you can freely move around at some points. It's confusing to me because I assume there are still action points that you're spending, but I'm very interested to see more, and I will definitely be picking this up.
I did not play the first one, but I understand that it is like $10 on the eShop right now, so I might pick it up actually and try to like play through some of it.
It's so good.
Got time because this Sparks of Hope is not coming out until 2022. When they started showing this, I was like, okay, well that's Nintendo's fall plans. I get it now. And then they were like 2022. I was like, well, what's Nintendo doing? But But yeah, no, the first one looked cool to me. I just never got around to playing it. So for $10, I might try to find some time to play that game. And I will probably check this one out too once it comes out.
Then another thing that came out of left field, they were like, now here's this, and it was an Avatar game, like Avatar the movie.
Yeah, are like movie tie-in games coming back?
Who knows?
I don't know what's going on.
I did not know what to think about this. I don't know what kind of game this could be. It seems like it's maybe a first-person game.
Unclear.
But
I thought maybe it was an open
yeah.
world game as well.
Could be. Who knows?
Are you dying to get back to that universe? Like,
not really. I saw it one time in theaters in 3D, and it was cool.
I was going to say,
I
I saw it twice. The first time, I was really taken in by the spectacle of it because it was kind of the first movie that did like 3D really well.
Yeah.
And then the second time, I walked out of it less than enthused because the second time, I paid more attention to like the characters and the story, and that didn't stick with me quite as much.
Was Michelle Rodriguez in that movie?
Maybe. I don't remember. I just remember, what's his name?
Sam Worthington.
Well, he's in it, but the other guy, the like bad guy who's like the little smarmy dude.
Giovanni Ribisi?
Yeah, and he's like, look, this rock is called unobtainium, and we want this. And I was like, okay, you're losing me a little bit.
Yeah, that was an insane plot point.
I mean, that was kind of all of it, too, because they were like,
yeah,
we're going to be these cartoon villains that are just here to, like, take this resource from these people. Bad humans.
I think... Was Devolver Digital after Ubisoft, or was it before?
I think it was after, but I might be wrong in how I ordered this.
What did you think of this show?
They had some cool stuff. Like, Devolver Digital always like has this crazy presentation that they do, and their style for it is just like off the wall in a really bizarre way. Like, how bad did you want to eat a chili dog after you watched that presentation?
You know what's crazy is right before that, I went to Sonic and got a chili dog, and then I watched that, and I was like, man, I just ate one of those.
Okay, well, for people who didn't watch the show, like, the presenter, like, they're actors, obviously, who are, like, performing in a scripted thing, of course, but they're, like, it's so over the top, and at multiple points throughout the show, there were just these, like, plates stacked high of, like, chili dogs, and, like, at least one or multiple people would just, like, start grabbing them and just, like, shoving them in their mouth and eating them like they were trying to win a contest.
There were multiple times in that, I guess you could call it a press conference, but it wasn't really. There were multiple times when a character would just stop talking about games, look, like, side-eye a dish full of chili dogs, and just start silently eating them for like a solid 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then just go back to talking about games.
Yeah, and there was like another part where somebody was presenting and they were like holding the plate, and then they put it down on like a desk behind them so they could like gesture while they were talking, and like somebody would like pop up in the cubicle behind them and just like start grabbing one and eating it in a really like gross way.
Games-wise, Trek to Yomi seems very cool. It's like a black and white side-scrolling samurai game that I think looks
I wrote this down too.
enjoyable.
So it looks like side-scrolling Ghost of Tsushima, and so I am very into this game. I will definitely play that when it comes out.
And then Wizard with a Gun looked kind of interesting to me. It has the art style of like Don't Starve, but it's like survival co-op, but you're wizards with guns.
This one also looked interesting to me. I might check that one out when it comes out. It definitely had like a sort of quirky, funny style to it. I mean, obviously, it's not taking itself super seriously. So
no, it was very zany, much like this entire production.
Right.
Death's Door was that Crow game you were talking about that they showed more of.
Yeah.
They sold a physical VHS tape of the the presentation as their equivalent of an NFT
Oh, did
for
they?
like $1,000. Yeah, it was like $1,000 VHS tape, and somebody bought it.
That's awesome.
Okay.
There was one game that they had. I forget the name of it. That was like they were only going to do a physical copy of it. Like,
Yeah, that was crazy
not doing
because the game
digital.
didn't look super cool.
Yeah, it did not seem like a game that I was like, ooh, I need to get this. But like, I can
Yeah.
applaud the effort of like, okay, like we do digital stuff, but we understand that like there's a whole market for this like physical editions of games. And so we're going to partner with somebody and do a physical only edition of a game that's like kind of unique. So,
Yeah, I was into that aspect of it.
yeah.
We now need to talk about the Microsoft press conference, and I have a big reveal for you, Zach.
Okay.
I will be sending it to you via text message.
Uh-oh.
As we were speaking, my girlfriend returned home and put something on my desk.
Is it a chili dog?
It is not. Go ahead and take a look at your messages.
Whoa.
I, in fact, have the limited time only Moa Burger artificially flavored wavy Pringles that are supposed to taste like the imaginary bird from the Halo series.
Yeah, it does have Halo branding on here, so it is like gaming related, I guess. But there's like
It's Microsoft related.
that burger has like 1, 2, 3, 4 patties on it.
I will be trying them right now. Some ASMR for
Yeah, I was gonna say, give us an ASMR crunch.
Oh. Oh. Hmm. 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 That's pretty good.
I didn't hear the crunch. I'm sure it'll come through on your side though.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. It's interesting. I've never had a wavy Pringle before, but I actually enjoy this. It's very barbecuey.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't think I've
Let's
ever
talk
had
about-
those either.
They're limited time only.
Well.
Let's talk about this Microsoft.
All right, so it starts out, and what's his name of Microsoft
No.
did
You're
not
wrong.
come out as you might have
Oh, yeah.
expected.
Yeah.
What is his name? Why am I forgetting his name?
Hines? Something Hines? Pete Hines?
No, Phil Spencer.
Ah, yes. Who's Pete Hines? Doesn't matter. Keep
I
going.
think he's with Bethesda, but anyway. Yeah, so normally he would come out and like intro everything, but they're like, look, we got Todd Howard. So
We bought Todd Howard.
we bought Todd Howard.
Here he is.
And so he is now going to come out and lead off the show because, I mean, it's Todd Howard. And also, they wanted to reveal some Starfield. So what did you think of this? There's like a pretty good sized teaser. It is still a teaser, so like not really gameplay shown, which is a little bit of a bummer, but kind of to be expected. I think next year's E3 will be like the deep dive, and then because that's how Bethesda does it. They like to like go deep on like showing you all the stuff about gameplay and what's going to be in the game, and then they're like, okay, this fall is when you can buy it.
I appreciated that we got more. We didn't really get more information about it, but I appreciated that we got more.
We understand the art
pre-rendered
style much more
Yeah.
than we did before.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we know now that it's like it's not going to be like that Prey game that never came out type of thing, where people are just like wandering around dressed as Han Solo with like blasters. Like you're dressed as an astronaut. You
Yeah.
have like a spacesuit when you go out onto. So that's something we
Now,
didn't
there
know.
was an
I'm sure there are
interview.
like hour-long.
There was
Okay.
an interview with Todd Howard where he said it's basically Skyrim in space.
That's great to me. That sounds great to me.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear. But it does look less fantasy than I thought it would. Just going
Which is maybe
based on
good.
the teaser. Yeah, I mean, it could be good. It definitely seems a little more expansy, you know what I mean? Like the Expanse where it's a little
Yes.
bit more like hard sci-fi and
Yeah.
not like Star Wars fantasy sci-fi, which is kind of what I thought it would have been, just
Yeah.
considering Bethesda and the type of games they do. Um, but I mean,
That's cool. I mean, it seems like you have a mech also. It seems like you have a ship. I don't know if you're going to be flying this ship is another thing. But it does seem like you have a mech that is stored in your ship that maybe does stuff for you. That was an interesting aspect. It's coming out on 11/11 just like Skyrim.
yeah, but they don't have the 11/11/11 thing that Skyrim had, which
Unfortunately, no,
was
yeah.
so great just from a visual standpoint at the end of the trailer.
What a great trailer that was, that Skyrim trailer. I remember being in my friend's garage and it was freezing outside, but we had to be in his garage for some reason and just watching that trailer over and over again.
That was a great trailer. And yeah, the way the name Skyrim popped up and then just like
Yep.
morphed into 11/11/11 was so good.
Iconic.
So I don't know. I like it's a long ways out and we still don't know much about it in terms of gameplay, but we can probably infer some things, and I'm sure people will just be poring over that teaser for the entire year until it comes out, but yeah, I'm still excited for Starfield. Kind of wish we would have seen more, but it was still a cool way to start the show.
Yeah, an excellent start.
So then they went into Stalker 2. I did not play the first Stalker. It kind of gave me what is that other Russian game that's the first person?
Metro.
Yeah, it was giving me some hardcore Metro vibes, but
Yeah. What a long trailer to have in your presentation.
it was, but I think people were into it. Like I
Yeah.
heard nothing but like good things like in response to seeing that trailer. It doesn't seem like necessarily my style of game, but I think people were into it. And then they went into Back for Blood, which is sort of a pretty well-known quantity at this point. It's a Left 4
Yeah.
Dead game, co-op shooter where you're killing zombies. And then they did Contraband. Do you know about this game?
I don't know anything about it. I just saw the trailer. It seems like it's a co-op heist game, maybe where you're planning heists.
Yeah, I mean, I need to see more of it, but
Two things I definitely know about it are that it's co-op and it's open world.
I definitely know it's co-op and open world because those are the two things I wrote down in our notes after watching the trailer. Otherwise, I don't know pretty much anything else about it.
We'll see. In the future. That was basically all we got was the cinematic of like a guy fixing a car.
Now, the next thing, I don't know, like Sea of Thieves kind of came and went or whatever, and like there are some people that are still into it, but like this kind of made me excited, I'm not gonna lie.
What an insane get for
Right?
them. I did not see this coming at all.
Me neither, and yet it's like so perfectly obvious too that like as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, why? Like, of course,
Makes total
of
sense.
course, this makes the most sense in the world. So they have partnered with Disney to bring a DLC that adds Jack Sparrow and characters from Pirates of the Caribbean, like a whole storyline. In Pirates of the Caribbean for Sea of Thieves. And I think that's like coming out soon, like maybe next month even. Like,
Is this a free upgrade or is it paid?
I think it's free.
I think it's
I want
free.
to say all of
Yeah, I
them
think it
have
is
been
too.
free.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where like I don't necessarily think I will buy Sea of Thieves and like jump into this game, but like
I own it.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, my friend wanted to play it last summer, I want to say. And so it was like on sale. I think there was some summer sale. It was like $15 or something. And so we were like, yeah, whatever, we'll get it. It was pretty fun if you're not being attacked by people who are much better than you. But it was pretty fun to just mess around in.
I was going to say, like, the main game seems like there's not a whole lot to it other than just, like, messing around with other people. Whereas this seems like if there's, like, actually a story happening, and you're like meeting and talking to characters from the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, like that makes me infinitely more interested in checking it out. And
Yeah.
it's one of those things where like within the next couple of months there are a couple of games that I would try but don't necessarily want to buy, this being among them. And I'm thinking maybe I do that like Game Pass for PC that's like $1 for like 3 months.
Oh, Starfield is Xbox exclusive,
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we should have mentioned that beforehand.
but it's also on Game Pass? Question mark.
I mean, I assume that they're coming day one to Game Pass. I feel like most of their Xbox Game Studio games is Bethesda now considered among those?
Yeah, I think so.
So I feel like that's the case. So I mean, the best deal in gaming just got a lot better. So yeah, I feel like this summer at some point I'm going to do that $1 for 3 months of Game Pass on
Yeah.
PC, and I'm gonna like try this out and like a bunch of other stuff. So that's exciting. Speaking of Game Pass, they showed that Yakuza Like a Dragon is coming to Game Pass. Like the
Yeah.
entire Yakuza saga is already on Game Pass. So that's pretty cool. You'll be able to play. Was Yakuza Like a Dragon not on Xbox before this?
That is a good question I don't know the answer to.
I'm not sure, but I want to say that maybe it was not. If it was, it's coming to Game Pass now, so that's a thing. Definitely worth checking out. I loved that game. So if you have not played Yakuza Like a Dragon and you are subscribed to Game Pass, like play this game when it comes out. And then next up, they went into Battlefield 2042. I also think this game looks cool. Like I'm into it. I think there are a lot of people that are like, well, this looks like just Battlefield 4 with like weather effects. And I'm like, well, I'm okay with that because Battlefield 4 was fun. It took a while to get there because it struggled out of the gate, but like, I don't know, I'm into it. Plus they're kind of doing that thing. You know how Call of Duty decided, like they already had like a class-based system, and then they went to like specialists, kind of like Rainbow Six Siege, or like they're sort of like heroes, like from Overwatch.
Yeah,
or whatever.
they're heroes.
Battlefield 2042 is doing the same thing, where they're sort of going to those specialists instead of like the old classes, and so you have these different types of loadouts with different types of like weapons, or like one guy has a wingsuit so he can kind of survive when like a tornado comes in and like picks everybody up. And like there are a bunch of other different pieces of gear that you can get and swap in and out. So I don't know. I've always liked the squad-based gameplay of Battlefield, so it'll be interesting to see how the specialists play into that and how the weather effects, mess with the map and how it changes.
Levolution.
Things. Yeah, Levolution is definitely a thing. There's one map where there's like a spaceship that launches, and I've heard that launch can fail and it will just like explode and cause chaos for the map and change the map for the rest of the game. So
one of the cool ones that they briefly talked about. So like it seems like a lot of the I've never played a Battlefield game, but it seems like a lot of the maps have these objectives that people are trying to protect and other people are trying to activate or whatever.
yeah.
One of them, I think the one that's in Korea, the objective is a disinformation engine that is powered by a quantum computer that you're trying to take down because it's like changing world events, which I thought was cool.
That is interesting. I hadn't heard that. Yeah. I don't know if this is going to pull me back into Battlefield in a big way. I used to be really into it, but I don't know. It looks cool to me, so I'm kind of excited for it in a way that I have not been excited about Battlefield in a few years, and maybe some of that's just because those have been like in the past and this is like a futuristic setting. So some of that. Moving on, they also showed that 12 Minutes game that's coming to Game Pass.
That looks too intense for me.
It does look kind of intense. It's that top-down game where it's very story-driven. And I want to say you're making choices and things are playing out differently depending on what you choose. It seems interesting. I might check it out. I wonder if I always wonder when they say Game Pass, is that console Game Pass or PC Game Pass? Because those don't always line up. And that's one of the things I find a little bit. One of the things that has kept me from jumping on board the whole Game Pass thing. But I will keep an eye out for it because that might be one of the games I end up playing if I do sub to Game Pass. And another game that I definitely will play if it comes to Game Pass on PC is Psychonauts 2. I did not play the previous one, but this is one of those games that's like beloved by the people who have played these games. Did you ever play Psychonauts?
I, a long time ago, downloaded... Was Psychonauts on N64?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
I downloaded whatever emulator was for the game system, and I played it on the emulator for a good amount of time, maybe like 3 hours, and I enjoyed it, but for some reason I dropped off of it. Maybe I got a new laptop or something. But it seemed cool. I liked the art style a whole lot. It's very quirky. But this is something I'll probably check out too. I like a good weird third-person platformer.
That's going to drive me crazy trying to think of what Psychonauts was on when it first came. Was that not just an Xbox game?
Maybe it was.
I thought it was an Xbox game, but...
You might be right.
Anyway, they said there are 10 more Bethesda games coming to Game Pass, including Doom Eternal, Skyrim, and Fallout 76. And there's a free DLC for Fallout 76 coming in July that adds... it was unclear to me what this was. Fallout 76 Expeditions The Pit. Like, I remember the Pit DLC for Fallout 3. Mm-hmm. Was that Fallout 3? Yeah, that was Fallout 3. I played all the DLC for that game and loved it. So it's interesting to me that they're bringing that back, but I don't know what it means. I feel like Fallout 76 is becoming more and more like ESO, in that ESO finds ways to bring like little locations from like previous Elder Scrolls games into the world of ESO, so you can kind of get a little bit of a feel for like going back through those areas again. I feel like Fallout 76 is trying to do something similar where they're like, okay, we've got the West Virginia wasteland, but what if we also started adding these things where you could go into like old areas, like revisit something like the Pit. So that's interesting. Also, I like that it's free, so there's that. They also showed some ESO DLC, but I don't even remember what it was. I've been sort of off and on the ESO train. I like that game. I just have not played it for a little while. And then they showed Party Animals, which seemed like sort of a Fall Guys, trying to get on the Fall Guys train, maybe, but only...
Yeah, just like physics-based, bouncing around against people.
Yeah. And then they said Hades is coming to Xbox, which was a little bit mind-blowing that it wasn't already on Xbox.
Yeah, I assumed it had been on everything.
Yeah, so that was a surprise, but it's coming to Xbox and Game Pass in August, which is cool. Now the next one is much more interesting. This is the game Somerville from a guy who used to be one of the devs with the team that made Limbo and Inside, and he left.
So this isn't the thing that Playdead is making, right?
No. This is, I think, a new studio. Very similar style, but yeah. It looked really cool to me.
Yeah, I'm into it. I thought it was like that, whatever that mystery project is that Playdead is working on, which I will 100% buy. But this is, I guess, separate from that. Still interesting, though.
Yeah, and then they went into Halo Infinite. So tell me about your hype level for Halo Infinite.
I don't care about the story
of
Halo at all. But to rope something in, they did the following day. They did an expanded look at the multiplayer. And the multiplayer is free. Anyone can just download and play the multiplayer portion. And it seems like it's going to be pretty similar. Like, there's going to be obviously some microtransactions or some nonsense. But it's not going to be one of those things where you have to like play to earn guns or everything. It's going to be the classic Halo multiplayer experience, which I'm a little bit into. Like, if I could get my old Halo group back together and play some Capture the Flag, that would be an evening to do.
I was gonna say it's kind of genius that it's free because for one, I don't know that I will buy and play through the Halo Infinite campaign because, like you said, I've never been super into the story of Halo.
Yeah.
But and that would have meant that I would not have played the multiplayer as well. But if you're telling me that it's free to play, there's nothing stopping me from just downloading it and giving it a shot.
Unless it's like Warzone, where it's like 98 gigs or something.
Well, there's that. But no, it's been years since I played a Halo multiplayer, and I sort of enjoyed it, but I liked other styles of multiplayer better, so I would always bounce off of them. But no, it does look cool. I think the fact that they went free to play for the multiplayer is what I think Call of Duty should have done years ago. Instead of like a new Call of Duty every year from a different team, you have to like move the community forward to the new game. We have still some people playing on the last year's one, and then you have some like DLC for the new one and the last one, and it's just like a big mess. And you're constantly like, oh, now there's a new one, and move everybody forward again. If they just did like a free to play like Call of Duty multiplayer. I mean, granted, nobody would buy the single player, I guess, True. But they could sell that for like $30. I don't know if people want it. And then I don't know what they do with their co-op mode, I guess, but like they could do season passes. Like I feel like this might be the thing that will convince them that it can work to go free to play or to separate the multiplayer out from the rest of the package. You know what I mean? I guess they've kind of already done that with Warzone. Do you still have to pay for Warzone, or is that free?
No, it's free.
I'm not a Battle Royale guy, but I would play Call of Duty every once in a while if it was just like free to download. So I feel like maybe like Halo will be that game that I try instead of Call of Duty because they would want me to pay for that. So I don't know. I feel like this is a good move. It's a good move for people like me who are maybe lapsed like Halo players, but also just the model of it is going to be so much more welcoming to other people. And like you said, like it's gonna be so much easier for you to convince your friends to jump in with you.
Yeah, because unless it's an insane file size, there's nothing stopping us.
Which, I mean, it shouldn't be, considering there's no, like, single-player campaign to go with it. Unless they're, like, linked somehow. I don't know, but...
TBD.
Was there anything else you wanted to touch on in the middle of this Microsoft show?
Not that I can recall, no.
Oh, I did want to talk about Replaced.
Yes, that looks very cool,
That looks
actually.
really, really cool to me. It's a really cool pixel art style, side-scrolling action game. It's coming to Game Pass. Look up a trailer for this thing.
Yes.
It just, one of the coolest indie games, I think, that I saw at all of E3. And with that, we can move on to The Outer Worlds 2.
This was also a very cool reveal.
So when we were recording our pre-E3 show, or like before that, and I was trying to come up with like some predictions, one of the things I wanted to put down and ended up scratching and deleting was some sort of trailer for The Outer Worlds 2. But I was like, they just released the last DLC for the first game like a few months ago, like earlier this year. So there's no way they're going to have anything to show for an Outer Worlds 2. So it just won't happen. And then they did do a teaser, but it was like a joke because they were talking about how they didn't have anything to show. And just like every minute of that trailer, there was like some other like funny line. Like it's a hilarious trailer. And I got this was maybe the thing that got me the most hype from the show for some reason, and it's just
Really?
because I love the Outer Worlds 1 so much, but also it was so unexpected to me because I had written it off like there's no way it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And just seeing that logo pop up, like, and having the music come in, like, this was the thing that got me for some reason. I don't know why, but I loved it. So, and then they did sort of have a one more thing at the very end of the show. Were you into this Redfall game?
What a weird thing. Usually, a one more thing is a somewhat known quantity.
Yeah,
where, like,
that's what I
you're
thought
like,
too.
oh my god. But they were just like, no, we're gonna shoot our shot on this game. I mean, Arcane is definitely a cool maker of games, and I love the Dishonored games and things like that. Wait, did they make Dishonored?
Yeah,
But this was just like a cinematic trailer for what seems to be another four-person co-op horde-style game.
yeah, post-apocalyptic. Seems like maybe
What about vampires?
maybe vampires instead of zombies, or maybe both.
I don't know. I mean, this maybe is going to be good, but I don't know that it was the thing they should have ended on.
Yeah, it confused me. It did seem like a weird spot for introducing something new. Because, like you said, I had the exact same thought where it's like, okay, your one more thing is usually something that is a known quantity, but
Yeah.
like people weren't expecting another
Exactly.
game.
Or like a franchise, like something where whispers have been said, but like no way.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
Gonna be...
Like it can work if you do something like Cyberpunk, where people are like aware of it, like it's been around for a while, and people kind of know
Yeah.
sort of what's going on with it, but they've not actually seen any footage of it yet. Whereas,
You know what I thought it was going to be? I thought it was either going to be, like gameplay footage of Perfect Dark, because they teased that like 2 E3s ago, or keeping on the Rare train. How insane would it have been if their one more thing was a new Banjo-Kazooie game? Because they could do that. They own Rare.
yeah, that would have been a good one too. Like either one of those would have been cool. I was definitely
That would have brought the
I was
house down.
definitely on the Perfect Dark train with you, where I was sure that it was going to be Perfect Dark.
Yeah.
And because we know they're making one. So that was kind of fresh on my mind. I was like, oh, it's going to be Perfect Dark for sure. And then it was not. It was something. It was a shooter, but just something really different. So that kind of.
We don't even know that it is a shooter. It could be third person.
Yeah, I mean that's still a shooter. It's just not.
Yeah, I guess
it's not
that's
an FPS. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. This did not, like, Redfall did not get me excited. I was not
No.
super into the idea of a co-op vampire shooter. But I mean, I'm less and less into multiplayer games these days. I do like co-op stuff, so maybe if it's only co-op, but it seemed like maybe a hero shooter too. Like a cooperative hero shooters where those characters that they had were like the characters that you had to choose from, and like one of them had sort of a magic ability and the other was good with like snipers or whatever. But
I think that is the case.
so I still don't know what to expect from it, but I was not overly excited. Maybe they'll come back with like a gameplay trailer at some point and it'll really blow me away. But as for now, I was not super into it. Well, after Microsoft, was this on a different day? It's all bled together for me, but Square Enix did a show.
Yeah, this was directly after Microsoft, and I have to say, I only sort of paid attention to this, and it seemed like that was the correct response.
Yeah, no, you were not wrong. They spent like 20 minutes showing a Guardians of the Galaxy game from Eidos Montreal. Now, people like Guardians of the Galaxy. People like Marvel stuff. I get it. I did not understand this. Like, why was this happening? Now, like, we've talked before, back when Marvel's Avengers came out, like, what a weird sort of place you're in where you're like, okay, like, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the biggest thing in the universe and everybody loves it. Like, we need to make money on that. We can make games about these characters, but you're stuck with this problem where you can't use the voices or the likenesses of the actors who are now so associated with those characters that you can't see anyone else playing them. but you do your best to sort of adopt the vibe and feel of the movies as best you can, which almost makes it even more weird. But that's what they've done. They've made a game that basically looks and feels like James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy with different actors playing all of the roles. So it's a little bit weird to me. Also weird, you play only as Star-Lord and not any of...
That was interesting. Yeah, you don't get to swap between characters. You're only playing as the least interesting character.
It seems like a real bad oversight to have made that choice. It would have been so much more cool to be able to like freely jump back and forth between the characters, sort of like Final Fantasy VII Remake, for instance. But it also seems like there are some telltale style moments where you'll make a choice and like the other characters will sort of react to that decision. I don't know. It doesn't look like a bad game. It just doesn't, like, I don't know why they spent so much time on it. And I also am not super into like Marvel games. I like the MCU. I don't necessarily like Marvel games. So this did not do much for me.
Nor me.
They did some stuff with Final Fantasy. They're bringing the first 6 games to Steam and mobile. And Legend of Mana, I should just say, this is something that you probably overlooked, but I don't know. I am playing currently Trials of Mana, the remaster, the remake on Switch. I got it as part of like it was one of those like buy 2 get 1 free from like my local game store, and I was like, yeah, I'll try this out. And like, and when I was checking out, the guy was like, oh, such a great game. So I actually was kind of excited to try it, and I actually am really enjoying it. I had not played the Mana series before. Obviously this is like more of a remaster of that stays more within like the style of the old games, whereas the other one was more of like a third person sort of, not open world, but like felt more like a modern game, I would say, than Legend of Mana is going to be. But I'm actually kind of into it. I might actually pick that up when it comes out later this month. Then they went into a bunch of mobile game stuff, which we did not care about. And then I just need to express how disappointed I am in Babylon's Fall. I don't know about you, if you were anticipating this at all, but I
had not heard of it before this.
Really, I remember the trailers. They've had some trailers at past E3 shows, and they were all very vague. They didn't really tell you anything about what the game was going to be, but it had this sort of medieval oil painting style to it, and it seemed like it was going to be like maybe an action RPG from what is the name of that developer? Platinum Games, who are known sort of for pretty cool like hack and slash combat. And so I was kind of I was like, I want to see what this game is. I'm kind of excited. Like, this is maybe one of their bigger things that they have to show. And it turns out it's like an online game as service game where you're playing in co-op with up to like 4 players. And I pretty much immediately lost interest because I kind of am just like done with that as like a thing. I've tried it over the years, and I never stick with them enough to make it worth it. Also, I don't know about you, but I was not into the look of it. It looked kind of bad, just visually.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think their like oil painting aesthetic is not working.
It works for environments, but as far as like people within the environment and like monsters and magic, I think it's not the way to go.
Yeah, it's like it had sort of a haze over everything.
Yeah.
That if they had cleared up may have looked better, but I don't know. So I was pretty bummed by that, actually. And then they showed Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, which I think is backwards from how it should be phrased. It should be Final Fantasy Origin : Stranger of Paradise. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, it's the game that is supposed to be sort of a Souls-like Final Fantasy game. What did you think of this?
It seemed fine. I'm watching the trailer for the first time right now.
Gotcha. Well, there is a demo out right now, and I have to say, this didn't look that good to me. It's from Team Ninja, who did Neo. And the characters to me look a little generic, maybe. And I like the thing about the Souls games is that, like, I'm not sure I would say, again, as someone who's not super well versed in that series, just looking from afar, the environments don't always look that exciting in those games, but like the creature design is like amazing.
Yeah, that's true.
And just like combat is really well done. But for whatever reason, this game, like, the environments didn't look good and the creature design seemed kind of generic. So it's like, I'm not sure what this game has going for it. I do plan on trying the demo, and maybe I'll have some different thoughts on it after that. So it's not like I'm not going to give it a shot, but like, I don't know. I don't think this is maybe the game people want it to be. Anyway, the two things that really bummed me out, and maybe this is like something that is being held for a Sony State of Play to be shown at another time, but they did not show Forspoken or Final Fantasy 16. They were very, very briefly shown in like a sizzle reel at the very end of the show, but they didn't actually show those games, and those were the ones that I was watching this presentation to see. So that was a bummer as well. So this whole show, basically, I guess I would say, was a big bummer, which is a shame. Anyway, did you have any notes from the PC gaming show?
I did not watch it.
Okay, well, I didn't really watch all of it. They had a ton of really cool like indie stuff. I stopped taking notes at one point. I watched some of it. Some of it was like repeats of things we had seen from other shows, but this was the kind of show that I would like stop every other trailer and be like, okay, I need to wish list this on Steam, because there was just like really cool indie after really cool indie coming from this show. So maybe worth going back to check out, but I don't want to necessarily rattle off every single one of them. So we'll move forward. I feel like we can skip Capcom because there was not a lot there.
I agree with that.
So let's do it. Let's get into Nintendo.
Yes, you gave me a gift, Zach.
I did?
Because we were both at work, and you were going to watch it before me. And I was like, don't tell me anything that happens.
Oh, yeah.
Just send me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And you sent me a thumbs down, and I was like, oh man, this is gonna be a bummer. And I got home and I watched it, and it was a bona fide thumbs up.
It's true. So I wanted to throw you off the scent because I wanted you to be surprised by the...
You set my expectations so low, and that allowed me to have a lot of enjoyment.
I wanted you to not see the Breath of the Wild thing coming. Spoilers for the end of where the show is going. They did actually show some Breath of the Wild 2.
How many times have you watched that trailer, Zach?
I have watched it 3 times. I will probably watch it a lot more after this. What about you?
Counting watching other people watch it, I've probably watched it 10 times.
Oh, I have not counted. If we're counting it that way, then it's at least like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So at the start of the show, they did do like a Zelda fake out where they were like, "Oh, is this going to be Zelda? Because that's Ganondorf." And then it ended up being a new Smash character. I don't know why I fall for it every time. They always start their Nintendo Direct with a new Smash character, and it fools me literally every time.
I don't know. So the new Smash character is the guy from Tekken, and I don't know how he operates, because he seems to
have twice the moves of everyone else.
He's got like 30 moves, and I don't understand how that controls.
Yeah, me neither. It's very confusing. I don't know if it's possible to like I don't know, enter different states where like you can use the same buttons to do different moves.
Who can say?
But
And also, he turns into a vampire guy.
I don't know the Tekken series, so I don't understand. But it's my
don't.
understanding that Kazuya from Tekken is basically Ryu from Street Fighter. It's like they're sort of the face of the franchise type of a thing.
He seems to be a demon.
He does seem to be a demon. I don't know what's going on with him, but how crazy that character has a million moves. Sakurai did say he plans to do like an in-depth look at the character later this month, so in like another week or two. I don't know. Will this pull you back into Smash?
I play it every once in a while, but I have not bought any of the DLC characters.
I was going to say, I have been thinking about it recently, maybe jumping back in, because I have not played any of the DLC characters either. I take it back. The Potted Plant.
That was free, yeah.
That free one. I did play that one, but none of the paid ones.
No.
Which is a shame because I love Joker from Persona, and I definitely want to check that out. I've been meaning to, I just have not done it yet, so... moving through the show, they did show Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy coming, and now this threw me off a little bit because I was like, okay, they're showing this game. This can't run on a Switch. They're going to do a Switch Pro thing here, right? They did not do a Switch Pro thing. This is a streaming game.
Yeah, it's like Control.
So a little bit of a shame there. I'm still expecting a Switch Pro announcement at some point, but I suspect it's one of those things where they've been keeping an eye on like Sony and Microsoft and seeing the trouble they've been going through with the chip shortage.
Yeah.
It's very possible. They did also just launch like a couple months ago, like maybe not even that long ago, a new like blue Switch Lite. And they're probably to a point where they're like, maybe we don't like destroy our sales, especially if we cannot ship very many of these. So let's let our sales keep rolling, and maybe we will launch this thing next year, closer to the release of Breath of the Wild 2, when hopefully things are a little bit more stable. That's my only guess, but there was a sort of Twitter back and forth between Jason Schreier of Bloomberg and this other games blogger from somewhere else. And he basically, the blogger was like, I don't even buy that the Switch Pro is actually a thing anymore. I've given up. And Jason Schreier responded to him and was like, I trust the reporting of my colleagues at Bloomberg. And so he was like, oh, well, okay then. So apparently they are standing by it, that it is a thing. It is coming at some point. It just, I guess Nintendo's not ready yet. So take solace in that. I don't know what you thought about a lot of the rest of these announcements. This Nintendo Direct to me seemed like sort of a niche gamer's paradise, because there are all these like older franchises that have not had games or in a long time, or they are like, if they have had them in somewhat recently, they are games that are not necessarily super mainstream or super like big games, but people love them anyway. So I'm thinking games like Super Monkey Ball, they're bringing that back. It was unclear to me if this was a new game and a collection of remastered games.
I think that is the case, yeah.
So that's happening. I never played the Super Monkey Ball game, so this did nothing for me, but I know that people are into that series, and so people are excited about that, but not as excited about, let me move down a little bit, WarioWare. I have not played the WarioWare games, but I always hear about like what a crazy wild series that is, of just like, it's insane.
They are insane.
And so people are super into that series, and that has not obviously been on the Switch yet. So that's kind of a big deal to get one on the Switch. Also, Shin Megami Tensei has not been, I feel like they've not made one because they've been going all in on Persona, which is like the spin-off series. So like, I should play this game just because I like Persona so much, and like all of the Persona that you use in Persona should also be in Shin Megami Tensei, and I have not played one of those games before. Don't know if I was into the art style of it.
Yeah.
So there was that. There was also Advance Wars 1 and 2, Reboot Camp. Like this series, like the people who are into this series are super into these games, and they've not been around for a long, long time. So they're being reimagined and rebuilt from the ground up, and it's coming out December 3rd, I want to say, like this holiday season. So that was sort of a big thing for people. And then there was also, I mean, I guess we can just get into it, but Metroid, another game that's not like a super big seller for Nintendo. Otherwise, we would have more games in the franchise, but like it's beloved in a really big way. And so I watched a reaction video from one of the YouTubers I follow. Had recorded himself reacting to the entire Nintendo Direct, and he just clipped out like a 3-minute part where it was just this trailer, and he's literally losing his mind at every second of what turned out to be Metroid Dread, which is a new 2D side-scrolling Metroid game. The first new 2D side-scrolling Metroid game in like 19 years, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
And this is one of those situations like we were just talking about with Vampire the Masquerade, where like we know they're working on some game, but it's been pushed back so much that it got to a point where now they're releasing a different game in the franchise ahead of it somehow. What did you think of this game?
I have never played a like a Metroidvania style game, but I don't know. It's just maybe not something I'm interested in, but I'm interested to watch someone play it. I feel like I don't have the patience for this type of game.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm that way with Metroidvanias in general. I have started Super Metroid a couple of times, and I like vaguely remember it from when I was a kid, watching other people play it. But I was into it. I think I will actually pick this up and play it, and maybe it'll be like a new experience for me, like trying to get into these games. I watched the Nintendo Treehouse Live gameplay section of it, and it did look pretty cool. So I'm not as over the moon for it as a lot of like the really hardcore Metroid fans were, but I did think it looked cool. So I'm kind of excited about it. And another one, just briefly, like I'm not really into racing games anymore, but like as a kid, one of my favorite games on the Nintendo 64 was Cruisin' World. And my friend had Cruisin' World and Cruisin' USA. And if you remember back in the day, like they had like the big arcade machines, like the cruising games were like some of the coolest ones that they had. And then they also, like, obviously they got ported to the N64. And so I just have a lot of memories, a lot of fond memories of me and my siblings playing Cruisin' World on the N64. And, like, you get all these crazy vehicles. Like, you can get a double-decker bus or a police car or, like, this crazy fast car. Or they had, like, this goofy-looking three-wheeled cart. There was, like, a lot of... It's a very fun sort of arcadey racing game. And apparently I don't know if this already existed or if this is brand new, but a game called Cruisin' Blast. So they're kind of bringing that franchise back, and it will be an exclusive for the Switch. So I, just for old time's sake, even though again I'm not a big racing guy anymore, I might still end up picking that up just for old time's sake.
I used to love Beetle Adventure Racing for N64.
I remember that one. My friend had that game.
I would have flipped out if they were like, here's a Beetle Adventure Racing sequel, but that franchise is probably not coming from anywhere anymore.
Yeah, maybe Beetles aren't as big as they used to be.
It's true.
Well, tell me all about the Zelda stuff.
So they were like, this is our final segment. This is going to be all Zelda stuff. And I was like, oh, great. It's the 35th anniversary. They're going to have a bunch of stuff. And right off the bat, they were like, we're not super developing a lot of Zelda stuff.
Yeah.
But here are a couple of things. There was some cool Age of Calamity stuff. There's DLC for that where like Zelda comes on a motorcycle, which is cool. There's a Zelda Game & Watch. which is fine, I guess. It does not. I'm not super into Zelda 1, 2, and what was the third one that was on there? There's four
Link's
games.
Awakening, but they already released a
That's right.
remake that you can play on Switch
Yeah.
anyway. So this was the thing that bummed me out. When I sent you the thumbs down, I said it was mainly because I wanted you to be surprised, which was true, because I wanted you to not think that they had shown anything for Breath of the Wild 2.
Mm-hmm.
But the other reason why I sent it was because I actually was a little bit disappointed by how this went down, where they were like 30th anniversary or 35th anniversary of Zelda. All we have for you is a remaster of one of the least like Zelda games and a Zelda Game & Watch with 3 old Zelda games that I will probably not play. Not that
It's
they're
true.
not good games, but like I'm probably not going to buy a Game & Watch to play them. And that's all they had for, and literally he said that like they are not developing any other Zelda games for the Switch right now other than Breath of the Wild 2.
Yeah.
So that was a big sort of kick in the pants to sort of learn that they
It
are
could
not
be-
doing a bundle that they did with Mario.
I would have enjoyed that, but also maybe Breath of the Wild 2 is all we need.
I mean, that's true. I mean, it is, but like, and I'm sure that in a perfect world, they would have launched it this fall and it would have been part of the 35th anniversary. But
100%.
It is a little bit of a bummer how it's going down. I mean, there was a Mario themed Switch that launched.
Yeah.
They didn't even have
So
like
much.
a green Zelda Switch, like nothing. I don't know. It seems like they kind of gave Zelda short shrift in comparison to the way they sort of went all out for Mario. There's no Zelda 35 game coming out, so.
Unfortunately, there's not, which is a bummer. But I don't know. I mean, maybe they'll think of some stuff towards the end of the year.
Well, I mean, if they don't have anything in development, I don't know.
Yeah, really.
But
That's a good point.
anyway, get into the trailer. Tell me, I want you to walk me through this thing.
Okay, so we start with the stuff we cut off from last time. To refresh people's memories, the first thing we saw of Breath of the Wild 2 was Zelda and Link walking around underground somewhere. They see a weird corpse guy with like a hand in him, and then Link touches him or something happens, and then the castle starts to rise. We join them as that is occurring. Link is touching this thing, and his right arm gets all messed up and becomes maybe not necrotic, but like stone in some way, perhaps. Zelda falls away, never to be seen again. Cut to Link falling out of the sky, similar to Skyward Sword. His hair is all crazy. He's wearing a crazy tunic. Who knows what's going on in this, actually. His hand is all messed up. I'm sure there's like 2-hour-long videos, like just dissecting frame by frame what's going on. But it's in the sky. It's somehow a sky game now.
Yeah, it's like Castle in the Sky, but like just pieces of land just like floating. And it seems like they really wanted to lean into the whole like Skyward Sword thing of like, we're up in the air and you're gonna be able to like fly down. They wanted to like take that as just an idea and like bring it back for Breath of the Wild 2. And it does switch things up, obviously, in a big way.
For sure it does.
Yeah.
A couple of interesting things. There is a new take on stasis that I want to say makes it go back in time. Like there's a spiked ball that's falling down a path, and then he uses what appears to be stasis, and the ball starts going up, and you can see sort of a timeline of where the ball was, which is probably going to be insane for puzzles.
Yeah.
Directly after that, we see... I'm trying to go frame by frame with this, but it seems like Link has a wooden dragon's head on his left arm, which is not the arm that's messed up.
So this
and it's breathing fire.
The speculation I heard with this was, his arm gets kind of messed up, or maybe it's not that arm. the speculation was like you had a Sheikah slate in first Breath of the Wild.
Right.
Because that game was developed originally for the Wii U, and so it was going to be like this. Oh, you're holding a Wii U gamepad. That's like your Sheikah slate, right?
Oh.
And so now,
That makes a lot of
and
sense.
now they're like, look, you obviously this is not for Wii U anymore. I mean, technically, your Switch is kind of like a little tablet that you've got, but you can take it anywhere, right? So this is more like free, like you don't need to have this Sheikah slate thing anymore. You've just like got the power on your arm sort of thing.
Yeah. I love this trailer. It's 1:38, and I've watched it a ton of times.
I want to talk about the green power that he has where he like goes up through a platform.
Yes, I'm watching it right now.
Like what could that power be? I feel like you're getting new powers. One of them might be that fire blast that you were just talking about, and the other seems to be some sort of green based power that lets you go up through things.
See, I don't even know if that fire thing is an arm power, because it like, at least in the trailer, it appears to be on his left hand. So I don't know if that's an item.
It's just a different type of weapon, maybe.
I don't know. I mean, what color was what was it called when you use Rivali's? Was it like Rivali's Gale or something?
Was there a color associated?
Was that green?
Associated with that, or was that? Ooh.
Yeah, because when you use Mipha's whatever, it was blue.
Yeah, you might be onto something. That might be just like. I wonder if there's just going to be like advancements to each of the powers from
the Guardians.
The Guardians from the first game that allow you to do just like crazy upgraded things with those same abilities. Although if you go back just before he goes up through the thing, there appears to be like a green droplet of water, and then it goes to him going up through the thing. So I'm not sure if that fits Rivali's Gale quite as much. Although like the arm thing, you see this like green arm grab a hold of the ledge as he's going up through it, and that could be a Rivali wing. I don't know. You might be onto something, but I'm not sure.
I was into this. I predict the next footage of this we see is going to be at the Game Awards in November.
That would be great. I would love for that to be the case. I kind of wonder if we won't see more until next summer.
That could be. I would not put that past Nintendo.
Yeah. It's hard to say because the game is coming out late. Well, I guess it depends. So they didn't give a release window other than 2022. So it could be that it comes out in like March, and they do a thing at Game Awards, and then they would show some stuff there. But like if it's coming out fall 2022, then probably not till summer.
I don't know, yeah. But that was probably, well, I guess let's talk about it. What was your favorite moment from E3?
Well, first, before we do that, let me list the things that did not get shown at the Nintendo press conference, because this was another reason why I also kind of had a thumbs down when you asked me that. I don't really care that much about Splatoon 3, but there was no Splatoon 3. There was no Pokemon anything, which is baffling to me, because they have like that other game, Arceus, coming out in January of next year, and they didn't show anything for it.
That will definitely be at the Game Awards.
Yes. And then no Bayonetta 3. We speculated on the new Donkey Kong game by the Super Mario Odyssey team. They didn't have anything for that. No Zelda bundle. We talked about that. And no Switch Pro and no Mass Effect Legendary Edition for Switch. I don't know if they could have done it, but maybe if they did like a streaming, that could have been something. But
yeah,
so there was a lot of stuff they didn't have there, and a lot of the rest of the stuff that was like pretty cool was a lot of like niche stuff. It was really all about Breath of the Wild, and Metroid, and those two things were really cool. But I would have to say, this is tough. I don't like. Do you give it to Microsoft for like game of the show, or do you go Nintendo?
For me, the thing I have returned to multiple times is that Breath of the Wild 2 trailer. just like the music, the score, right when they reveal he's falling from the sky is that like little 5 second loop is something I could watch over and over again. I got to give it to Nintendo. I got to give it to Breath of the Wild 2 gameplay.
That's a fair point. I definitely have rewatched the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer more times than anything else from E3. So maybe by virtue of that alone, I have to give it to Nintendo. But I thought Microsoft had a pretty strong show.
I agree. They had a solid, well-rounded show, and you know what? Jeff Keighley's show was also super solid and well-rounded.
That's true. There was some good stuff. It was those three as like sort of the big tentpoles. And like I said, I think there was a lot of really good stuff in the PC game show as well. Just smaller stuff, like indie stuff, but I mean, a lot of it looked really, really cool. There was a lot of really, really good looking indie games, so I do want a Sony something. And there will be an EA Play as well in July, so could get some Dragon Age 4 info and some Star Wars games, so looking forward to that. I think to answer your question about what was my favorite thing I saw at E3, it probably is the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer. Like I said, I was also very on board for Outer Worlds 2. I'm into Starfield. I don't think we got as much as we wanted out of that, but...
Unfortunately, yeah. If we had gotten, like, a 15-minute thing about Starfield, that probably would have been my game of the show, but unfortunately we just got... I think that trailer was less than a minute.
Yeah, I think they're saving that for next year. But it was cool to see some of it. And like I said, a ton of indie games that I'm very excited about that I have been wish listing. Too many to even like take the time to go over because we're already at like an hour 45 into this thing. So
yeah.
Strong show all around.
I agree.
So we're awarding the Starside Chat E3 Game of Show or Summer Games Fest Game of Show. We're calling it for Breath of the Wild 2?
I think we have to.
I think we have to too. There you have it. And I guess we give the award to Nintendo for best show.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, there are some solid contenders. Microsoft show was good, well-rounded, and Keighley's show was also good and well-rounded, but they didn't have they didn't have Breath of the Wild 2, frankly.
Yeah, they didn't have that, and I'm not sure they hit on all your core tenets of like a great
no one really
show. Did. Yeah.
Microsoft definitely tried to, and Jeff Keighley was the closest, because he had the thing at the beginning where you don't know what it is, but it's kind of something you did know what it is eventually. Tons of trailers, and then one more thing. I don't know. If they had not showed anything about Breath of the Wild, I don't know. I'm not sure if I would have called it for Keighley or Microsoft.
Let me ask you this: between the two, between Microsoft and Nintendo, which conference had more games that you think you will actually play?
That is a good question. Maybe Microsoft.
That's what I was just thinking. I was when I said that we give it to Nintendo, I stopped myself for a second. I said, but I think there were more games that I will actually end up playing at the Microsoft press conference.
Quality over quantity, though, I have to say.
Yeah, there's that too. You make a good case.
Well, we should wrap this up because we're busting into 2 hours.
We are, and I have to edit this, and it's not going to be fun. Do you have any parting wisdom?
Zach, Windows 11 is right around the corner. Get ready for that.
I had not even thought about it until this moment.
It leaked a workable ISO of it leaked yesterday, and people are loading it up and checking it out. They're going to reveal it next week on June 24th.
Will it be a presentation of all the bugs we can expect?
That'll be a week from that.
Well, if you enjoyed the show, leave us a rating on iTunes. I guess it's not iTunes, it's Apple Podcasts. I'm an old man, apparently. Follow us on StarsideCafe.com and on Twitter at StarsideCafe and on Instagram, Starside Cafe as well. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.